Good evening, everybody.
Just add.
Welcome to the North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting for April 26, 2018. If we can get started with roll call, Victor, please.
Of course. Chair Everardo Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Beatriz Cerrillo.
Here.
Councilmember Rosario Gonzalez. Here. Councilmember Linda Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Rosario Lopez.
Here.
And Youth Member Yesenia Mendez.
Thank you. We'll proceed with public comment. Anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic not on the agenda tonight. If you want to do so, please fill out a speaker slip by the front. You can get it. And the council may not discuss or take actions on items not on the agenda. And we have Terry Chin.
Good evening, council members. I'm Terry Chin. I'm the Human Services Manager for the City of Redwood City. I'm the manager of the Fair Oaks Community Center, so welcome and glad that you're always able to use our facility for your regular meetings. I'm actually here tonight because one of my other hats is that I am the co-convener for the annual Oye Latinx Youth Conference, which is this coming Saturday up at Cañada College, and I wanted to just extend an invitation to each of you to just stop by if you can. I'm going to actually share some programs of the day. So you can take a look at the program and see if there's a time that you might be able to stop by. This is our 7th year, our 3rd year up at Cañada College, and it's a very exciting youth-adult partnership to create this conference for Latinx youth in our community. It's primarily targeted at youth and parents from Redwood City and North Fair Oaks, but we actually oftentimes and will be getting youth and parents from some other communities, including the coast side, as well as some communities a little further up north. And the workshops at the event actually will include about a quarter of the workshops that are actually created and led by youth from our community, including the Siena Youth Center, North Fair Oaks Youth Initiative, the Sequoia High School Dream Club, and the Boys and Girls Clubs, Forest Hill group. So anyway, we look forward to a great event on Saturday and do really want to extend that invitation for any of you can join us, even just a few, an hour at the time or a half an hour, but at any time during the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your invitation. And if we can have the Sheriff's Office update presentation by Captain Christina Corpus.
Good evening, council members and members of the community. My name is Christina Corpus, and I'm a captain with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and I oversee the law enforcement services for the North Fair Oaks area. Tonight, I'll be reporting out on the quarterly report for January 2018 through April 2018, and I'll be making comparisons to the same time frame for 2017. So Part 1 crimes are universal standards upon which crime is measured in the United States. Part 1 crimes are comprised of the following offenses: homicide, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, larceny, and auto theft. So if you can see in the first graph of the Part 1 crimes in comparison to the same time frame, 2017 to 2018. In 2017, we had a total of 77. In 2018, the numbers have dropped to 71. So it represents a reduction of over 1.4% of Part 1 crimes. So we've made some headway with some of the crimes. What we've seen an increase in is the petty thefts. So that's under the category of larceny. We did have 2 robberies, additional robberies this year in comparison to last year. So we have seen about a 56% decrease in burglaries from the first quarter of 2017 and 18. So the reduction observed applies to the residential burglary rate, which went down by 50% compared to the previous year. The commercial burglaries remained about steady, and the residential burglaries, we'd like to, we're out in the community, we're out patrolling, and we really want the community members to feel safe, sending their kids to school, protecting their homes and protecting them as they go to work. So violent crimes, we have seen a 20% reduction in rape in 1 year, which, to me, I don't want any rapes occurring. And the rapes that have occurred have been occasions where people know each other. We've also seen a reduction of 3.85% in aggravated assaults in North Fair Oaks in comparison to last year. The robbery rate has shown an increase by 2 robberies, as I stated earlier. We've seen a substantial increase in parking enforcement from 2017 to 2018. But I can tell you that comparison to last quarter, they've dropped significantly because we've been out doing education, providing calendars for the community members to advise them when they can and cannot have their cars parked on their street during street sweeping. The increase has been in people parking in front of fire hydrants or people parking in crosswalks. So we have created kind of a pamphlet that we'll be giving to community members in English and Spanish that kind of touches on with photos about kind of what the violations are so they can be further educated on avoiding receiving a citation. So as mentioned earlier, we've been experiencing an overall general decrease in the crime rate in comparison to 2017. While it's difficult, the variations are for short periods of time, we can still appreciate the downward trend in the community. So, we're working on our proactive response always. We can always do better, and we always strive to do better. With high-profile patrols, communication with our residents, meeting with the business owners, meeting with the property owners, and making ourselves more available to the community members. Again, we continue with our Coffee with the Community, community dialogues, community academies, our parenting classes, our immigration forums, and our open house that we recently had of our substation. So there are some crimes that we still haven't solved because they're still under investigation, and those are more complex, so we're working closely with our Detective Bureau on those cases. So again, working with our initiatives, working with the community members, the partnerships that we've established and nurturing those relationships. With the schools, our community policing unit has continued to work to help the community of the North Fair Oaks. Our school resource officers have been supporting the community during recent developments of just things that are going on within the schools, especially in regards to any type of assessments and training for active shooter or school shooting incidents, because that's been, a concern to the whole nation, and we want to rather be proactive than reactive. So I want to let you know that we started the process for our annual STAR Camp, and we have applications in the back. But if you know anybody. There is a sliding scale fee, but we take everything into consideration. So we do have grants available, so they'd be at no cost to the parents. So if you know anybody, it's for kids that are in grades 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And so I'd encourage anyone that would like to go to our camp. It really gives us an opportunity to know the kids of our community. And then again, we'll be doing more community events during the summertime for kids, doing our play streets. So in certain areas, we'll have jump houses, we'll have popcorn machines, we'll have activities for the kids to do to come out in the communities and enjoy having, getting to know the deputies in that work in the neighborhoods. So we continue, as I said, doing community outreach, assisting at the St. Anthony's dining room. We recently had a community soccer game, which we all enjoyed, and that was held at the Sports House. We continue to read to the kids, even though the library's under remodeling now. We're doing it here at the preschool, so we're enjoying that very much. And continuing, especially being more available to the kids and to the administrators of our schools in our neighborhood. That is my report for this quarter. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thanks very much, Christina. Any questions from council members?
Thank you, Captain. Aside from the STAR camp, is there any other, my question is, how are you gearing up for the summer? And you gave information on STAR camp, but what else, what's the capacity for that camp?
So we have, I think, 120 it's 120 students that we have the capacity for. And we take them up to Camp Loma Mar, which is on the coast. And all is required is that they bring, clothing, and if they have a sleeping bag available to them. And we do so many different activities with them. It really gives us an opportunity for maybe those children that don't necessarily get to go camping all the time or haven't had that experience.
How long does that camp go for?
We pick the kids up on Tuesday morning, and then on Friday afternoon, we come back and we have a graduation ceremony at the Mounted Patrol grounds that everyone's welcome to. We have a canine demo there, and we do a barbecue. We give the kids certificates. They get to talk about what they've learned at the camp. The sheriff will give them their certificates. It's really a really fun experience. As a school resource officer, I did it for 7 years, and it's tiring, but it's a lot of fun. You get to meet kids, and you really get to see them come out of their shells. So it's really nice.
And keeps them busy, right?
Yes, and we do. And I know that sometimes people are apprehensive about sending their kids away, especially for 4 days. So we have done outreach. We do have the school resource officers are going to the various schools and doing presentations to the parents that maybe are concerned about sending their kids up there. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your report. And but I have a question regarding the parking. The parking citation. What's the number of?
The total number of parking citations for this?
Is increase or decrease?
Overall, from last year, it increased, but it has decreased from the last report out from the last quarter. So it has. It's decreased by about 800 citations. So we've done more working with community members. We've done more outreach. So there has been a decrease from last quarter to this quarter. So.
I'm kind of concerned about the, especially the days or the schedule for the sweeping when they come to, sweep the streets. So, because we have the issue of we don't have that much parking spaces. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if that is possible to include for the next maybe for the future meetings to add some information about that for the schedule or how does that work. Because sometimes it starts at 6 a.m. and the parents, we usually go and drop our kids at the school at 8 o'clock.
In the morning, yeah.
In the morning. And because we don't have parking space.
Okay.
I don't know if we can add some information for the future. Someone, I don't know who can come and give us the information about.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, we can have the agency, what is that, Recology, whoever's doing we can have them come and and give more information on that. But why do you think there is a decrease, though? Because of the educational part?
I mean, that's what I really like to think.
This is really excellent, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's pretty good.
I mean, we even, there are people that come to our substation, or we'll go, if we see people, the parents at the schools, and they voice their concerns, and there's more people living under one roof, and they have multiple cars. So it is an issue. And, we really try to give warnings before, kind of, move your car. If the community service officers pretty much know where the cars are, and so they may, knock at the door and say, "Can you guys move your cars?" They really make an effort to not give them a citation, have them move the car before the street sweeping comes by. But then it's also people complain if their neighborhoods they can't be cleaned. So it's kind of, a double-edged sword. So we really try and work with the community members on, okay, just, try and get your car moved. And sometimes they do have cars that maybe won't start or something. And, we give them that flexibility, and we'll work with the street sweeper and just let them know, hey, that car, it's not starting. They're making an effort, but the car's not starting.
One quick question in regards to residential burglary. I've read in the online site Nextdoor several complaints, not necessarily from residents from North Fair Oaks, but from adjacent areas about mail packages getting stolen. And I'm assuming that is considered residential burglary?
It's considered a larceny, so it's a theft.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a concern, and it's happening everywhere. So what's happening is these people are driving by the neighborhoods and looking for, when somebody gets an Amazon package at their door or a FedEx package, and if they see the opportunity, they're going to take it. So, that's why our patrol deputies are out there really patrolling the areas. But we do that with education, too, really having people maybe work with, you can also always have it, if you know what time you're going to be home, let whoever where you're buying the package from know that you're going to, be home. And you can't always schedule the delivery, but maybe you can have it shipped to work because then, if your employer allows that. So there's just, unfortunately, it's kind of one of those crimes of opportunity that's occurring all over.
Yeah. And in the case of residents who have video cameras and they get footage of the offender, I mean, is it worth making a report to the police?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we can do something that's called a track flyer, and even if we get the vehicle, the color, kind of the make of the vehicle, we can put a track flyer out, and maybe a neighboring jurisdiction, maybe like somewhere in San Mateo or somebody may have that same car as a suspect, and we can work together at maybe trying to figure out the time frames of when they're doing this, and the vehicle, and maybe they're going by an automated license plate reader, and maybe we can utilize that system as well. So there's various ways that we can look for that, and I would encourage anyone to call, because that's what we need. That's how we're going to know that that's existing in that neighborhood.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
I guess no further questions.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
We also have a video, a registry on our website. So if anyone has video cameras at the residence, they can register that information. So if ever there's a crime in that neighborhood or a crime there, and maybe that person's away, we'll know that there's cameras in that area, so we would be able to go back and do further investigation.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I suppose there's no public comment for this item. So next item will be the California Highway Patrol update. Actually, hold on for a sec. Melissa, so there's a couple of additional public comments. What one would be good to take those? Can I take them?
It's in your discretion as a chair.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll take a couple of other public comments that just came in, just to get them out of the way before we get the California Highway Patrol report. Yeah, and we have Veronica Escames. Oh, not this time.
What's, she didn't put the top?
There was no topic. Oh, okay. Money and income, okay. Esther Orozco. Okay. All right.
Oh, another tobacco.
Great. Okay, we will move on to the California Highway Patrol update now. Presentation by Officer Art Montiel.
Good evening. So just to start, we're going to show you a quick video about the CHP that came out recently, and then I'll go ahead and talk and get your questions.
You see, the road is a place we call home. A world of asphalt and concrete, rubber and steel. We are boots on the ground. We are wings in the air. 2 wheels and 4. We are blood and sweat, tried and true. We come from every walk of life, and we are many, yet we are one. When you call for help, we'll pick up the phone. We'll find you when you're off the beaten path. We'll hold your hand when you're afraid and tell you things will be all right. We've listened to your stories, and we've heard your cries. We've felt your pain and shared your loss. Purpose, and we will give everything to protect you. There are no roads we don't cross, no lives we don't touch, no walls we won't climb, no place we won't protect, no hours we won't work. Our work is the kind that doesn't end. And our reward is each new day. trust has paved the way for our success. And our gift to you is a promise of nobility. Stand watch through the night, through wind and rain and snow and sun. We are black and white, blue and gold. We are many. We are one. We are your California Highway Patrol.
All right, so just to give you a little overview about some of the stuff that we do, and a lot of times people don't know what is it that we do. Most people don't even know that we have a boat, right? Never been on one, but we have the helicopters, we have the planes. We basically cover the entire state and anything that is related to the state, like the DMVs, the Capitol, things like that. So. Last time I explained a little, kind of gave you guys a little overview of what the Highway Patrol does versus the sheriff versus the local PD. And basically, we cover pretty much anything that's unincorporated in San Mateo County or Santa Clara County. The sheriff will cover whatever's unincorporated in the county that has to do with the penal code when we handle the vehicle code. And then the city police will handle pretty much anything that happens within their city, whether it's vehicle code or penal code. I'm happy to say that we haven't had any major crashes in North Fair Oaks since the last time I was here. And we haven't gotten any major complaints about the area. So we have our officers come in the area, but I also want to hear from you guys, see if there's anything that you want us to focus on while we're patrolling the streets. So, any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. The video is pretty cinematic, very nice, well done.
I didn't make it, so.
Yeah, it looks very professional, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
If council members have any comments, questions?
Yeah, to the chair.
Yeah,
I want to say thank you very much for your video. Wow, so good. And also thank you very much for what you do for our community. And also the same thing for Sheriff. Thank you, Christina, and for everything what you do and how you come to our community and talk to them and how you help us. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. And just because I didn't say when I first came on, I'm the public information officer for the CHP at Redwood City. So I cover this area, and I do the events that have to do with the any of the public, any of the media. So we have a couple events coming up this weekend. So hopefully you guys will be there as well. We have the touch truck at the Jura parking lot in Redwood City, and on Sunday we have the Dia del Niño right here in this parking lot. So we'll be at both. So.
I did want to know, do you have anything going on in the summer for kids to get involved?
We don't have anything that's like the sheriff does. That unfortunately we're a small area. We don't actually have the resources to do something like that. But we do go out to different areas, the community. When they have block parties, we go out there and try to be involved with the community, bring the car so the kids can see it, and they love the car. So, okay. And we bring Chipper too, so that's always fun.
What's that?
Chipper is one of our officers that, see, there's no kids here. Okay, it's one of our officers that puts on the head, right? You know Chipper? Yeah, so.
I don't know what that is.
Chipper is our mascot.
Oh, your mascot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So one of our officers puts on the head and goes out and talks to the kids. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there officers assigned to this particular area, or you said that yourself have been assigned to this area? Is it only yourself?
So I'm the public information officer, so I am assigned to anything that's covered media related or education, like a community outreach. We do have road officers that get assigned depending on how many officers we have. Just to give you an idea of what the CHP covers, we have a huge area that basically goes from Millbrae all the way to Sunnyvale. On 101, 280 goes from Millbrae all the way down to 85. Okay. We cover parts of 85, parts of 237, Highway 1 from Devil's Slide all the way to the Santa Cruz County line, and 92 from Claw Witter all the way to the coast, all of Skyline from 92 all the way to Santa Cruz, or the Highway 9, and then Skyline to the coast, and then all the unincorporated areas. Mm-hmm. With that, on a good day, we'll have about 14 officers working the entire area. So we'll have 4 officers on 280, 4 on 101, maybe 2 on 92, and then maybe 2 on the coast. And if we have additional officers, then we'll put them on all the unincorporated areas. But basically, if anything happens, then they will basically send officers that are in the area. And that's why it's great for us to be able to work with the sheriff's office, because they usually get there first, and then, like I said, if it's a crash or if it's a DUI, then we'll take over and we'll do the investigation. But they're there, or also the ones, the park rangers on Highway 1, they will get there first before we show up. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Good.
And if there are no questions from the public, we will move on to item number 5. Which is an update on the Fair Oaks Library hours and budget by the director of the Redwood City Public Library, Derf Wolgram.
Good evening, Chair Rodriguez and members of the council. Chair Rodriguez, I appreciate the invitation to come and speak with you tonight about what's going on with the library budget and the hours. I did want to, while I'm here, quickly update you. The last time I was here, when I spoke to you, we were just beginning the Fair Oaks Library expansion and renovation project. Very grateful to our partners in the county for the Measure K funding that allowed us to do that, and our partners here in the Fair Oaks Community Center that have allowed us to set up a temporary space here while construction's going on. Just wanted to let you know that everything is moving forward according to plan, on time, on budget. It's been a pleasure to work on this project. It's gone much more smoothly than lots of others I've been involved with. And it looks like we are on target to open again in June. So I'll have more information once we actually have a date, but we should definitely be open in June, if not at the very beginning of our Summer Learning Challenge, very, very close to the beginning. So wanted to let you know that. And then I wanted to talk with you briefly about some things that are going on with the City of Redwood City budget and the impacts that they have on the library, and then particularly on the Fair Oaks Branch Library. We have in the city a significant budget issue that's largely driven by pension obligations, unfunded pension obligations, and our city council has identified a strategy for working on that that involves a change to the city budget of about $12 million a year, and they've split that in half. So about $6 million is coming in the form of expenditure reductions for the city, and about $6 million is coming in the form of additional revenue, either through, a lot of it is coming from enhanced maintenance development fees, and then there's some consideration of ballot measures for the city of Redwood City to go on the ballot in November to raise some additional funds. Of the $6 million reduction that's happening within the city, that's been distributed across departments. The library is not alone in facing reductions for the upcoming budget year. Our police and fire departments are both losing some vacant positions. Our Parks and Rec department, there are some cuts to after-school programs and some things that we actually care very deeply about as a city, but have limited resources, and we're having to make some difficult choices. So the impact for the library for the upcoming year is going to be about a $420,000 reduction to a budget that's about $9 million to start with. And then it'll increase a little bit next year, and I can tell you about how that will look. So of the $420,000 that the library is cutting, about a third of that is coming in things that are not related to personnel and hours. We're taking a significant cut to the book budget. We're scaling back some funding for a few programs. About a third of it is coming in the form of eliminating vacant positions that we have that are currently not occupied. And then the last third is actually coming in the form of reducing filled positions, that we may be in the position of laying off a couple of employees depending on what happens over the next few months. And the major thing that is goes hand in hand with personnel reductions are service hours reductions, because that's the bulk of what we do, is we hire the people who staff the libraries, and as we're reducing, we're having to make some cuts to library service hours. So those are planned to take place in January 2019 is when the hours will be reduced. There's actually, across the 4 libraries, if you add up all of our service hours, 23% of our total service hours are going to be reduced starting in January. We've tried to look at that as scientifically as we can, looking at hourly usage data that we have so that we can make the reductions during the least busy times and in the ways that give us the most opportunity to continue to provide options for our public to use the library. Those of the 23% reduction, all 4 libraries are being impacted. It ranges from the downtown library as having an 18% reduction to the Shaberg Branch Library is having a 30% reduction. Fair Oaks sits right in the middle at about a 22% reduction, so just below the average of what's happening for all 4 of the libraries. And you have a diagram in front of you, so the combination of the blue and the orange is the current library hours, and then the orange are the hours that will be reduced once this new budget plan goes into effect, once the City Council approves the budget in June. So you can see that the impacts for the Fair Oaks Library are basically the elimination of the hours of 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Saturday, and then Saturday evenings from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And so in looking at the hourly usage data, we saw that after school hours were definitely the most heavily trafficked hours, both in terms of checkouts and in terms of visitors. And so we had to make a cut of this magnitude, but we didn't want to eliminate an entire day of service because we knew what an impact that would make for the community. So we sort of split it to shortening the days on Thursday through Saturday, so that we could still be open 6 days a week, even though not so much in the morning hours. And so this is what is on the City Council's agenda to approve when they approve the budget in June. And I will pause there. The sheet that I handed out, it doesn't all fit on the screen for the projection, but I have all 4 of the libraries just so you can see for comparison purposes what's happening to all the libraries. And I'll pause there to see whether you have any questions for me about this.
Thank you, Derek. Yes, we do have questions. And before we start with questions, I'd like to ask you if you could explain to us how does the Redwood City Libraries providing services, library services here through the North Fair Oaks Library works. In essence, how does the funding, for the hours, the library hours and services that we receive works?
Sure. So we actually, there's kind of a three-part partnership that makes up the North Fair Oaks Library. We have a portion of our funding that comes from the City of Redwood City's general fund. We also have a portion of our funding for the library that comes from the San Mateo County Libraries Joint Powers Authority agency. And then we actually pay rent to the County of San Mateo for occupying the building. So there are three different entities that are involved. We get money from the county library, JPA, and we give some money to the county for the rent. And so I don't, at this point, I don't see any reduction that I anticipate from the county library's portion of the budget, so it's just the city share.
And is this a temporary budgetary cut, or is this being considered pretty much permanent?
I hate to use the word permanent, but this is a plan that is to address the city's unfunded pension liabilities over a time horizon of the next 10 to 15 years. So unless there are changes that result in either higher revenues or reduced expenditures for some other reason, I wouldn't anticipate this to be a short-term reduction.
Thank you. Beatrice, did you have a question?
Right. The hour reduction, these hours that have been calculated over time, so I guess they're like the average, and this is what is mapped out now. But during vacation times, when the schools are closed, do these, does the usage of the library, does it increase? Or just based on evidence and data, this is basically what kind of is more pronounced?
I mean, this is kind of across the year. We do see an increase during the summer with our Summer Learning Challenge. We haven't in the past done seasonal changes in hours where we've increased over the summer and then decreased over other parts of the year, because we do want to make sure that we're available for the families while school is in session, having a number of evenings that we're open for homework, having weekend access for folks that can't make it during the week. So we've kind of tried to keep it stretched across the whole year over those hours.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Rosario.
I see that you're going to have the schedule for Fair Oaks Library. You're going to cut Thursday, Friday, and Saturday hours in the morning.
That's correct.
But I have been in the library during Saturdays, for example, and I see that we have more people. I have seen more people during the week than Saturdays. I don't know if it's possible that you accommodate less hours maybe in Saturday or not Saturday, and you open more during the week, because I have seen more people during the week, more activities, especially, as Beatrice said, during vacation. Students from the schools from here, the area, come almost the whole day to the library. I have seen that. And sometimes the librarians, they have activities for them in the library. So I don't know if it's possible.
It's certainly something that we could consider. I mean, I don't have, with the cost reductions we have to make, I don't have a lot of flexibility with the number of hours, but there is some flexibility with the arrangement of the hours. I do know that prior to my arrival as the Redwood City Library Director, we didn't used to be open on Saturdays, and that was actually something that I heard relatively strongly from the community and from Supervisor Slocum's office, is that there was a demand for those Saturday hours, and so we did add those to try to meet community demand. That was something that actually a few years ago, when the city increased the budget for the library, Saturdays was the piece that got added to the Fair Oaks Library. So it is something that we could consider. I agree with you that by the numbers, especially after school, the hourly usage across the after school hours during the week and during vacation times in the morning is definitely tends to be busy. Most days weekdays tend to be busier than Saturday, but we do know that Saturday may be an option for some people who don't have the opportunity to go during the week at all, and so we want to balance that. But if if there was some community consensus that cutting Saturdays in order to preserve the weekdays more was something that the community would like to see, we could certainly look at some alternative ways to do this.
And also about the outreach of your employees on the local schools. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to see if they can go, because I've seen that they go to preschool sometimes to read, but I don't see that they go to special ed classes, especially preschool. I see that they go to general ed, but not to special ed classes. I don't know if it could be possible to.
I think that's something we would definitely have an interest in if we can make those connections with the teachers in those classrooms. We have recently started a program. It's only at the downtown library at this point, but it's called Dame la Mano, or Hand in Hand, that is a story time and early learning program that's particularly targeted towards autistic and speech delayed. It's for very young children. It's designed for kind of the 0 to 3 age range rather than school age. But working with our children with special needs is something that the library is trying to do more of. And so I'm happy to get that feedback from you, and it's certainly something that I would like to see us do more of with our school outreach to make sure that we're getting to the kids who need us the most.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Derek.
Go ahead, Linda.
How long is your, well, first of all, where are you located during, where's your temporary location at?
Oh, we're in just down the hall in the right by the Peninsula Family Service adult area, where we have a very small space in the computer lab. That,
were there other options to move into a larger space, or?
Knowing that it was going to be a relatively short term, that we were only going to be closed for a period of weeks, we made a choice that being closer, being in the area where people were familiar with us being, would be better than trying to find a larger space to rent further away and having to move things there. We thought it would be, since it was for a very short term, we thought it would be more convenient to stay as close as we can, and so we took advantage of the space
And how much time are you looking at before you go back to your?
So we'll be back in June, so it'll probably end up being about 4 months start to finish that we'll be in the small temporary space.
Thank you. And I thought I heard you say that in order to save on revenue, or because of the reduction in revenue, you're not going to be filling vacant positions, but you're also going to eliminate filled positions? Did I hear correctly?
That's correct. I'm hopeful that since our hours reductions aren't coming until January 1st, that we have some time for attrition to take place. All of the employees who are potentially impacted by the budget, either those whose positions are directly the ones that are slated for elimination, or the folks who are kind of down the seniority chain who might be affected by bumping. I've had individual conversations with each of those employees so that they are aware of the potential, and I know we do have some folks who may be looking for other jobs or may be considering retirements. I don't have any knowledge of anybody beyond the 3 vacancies that we've already identified. I'm not aware of anybody else who's planning to leave.
I'm bringing this up because I know that when you don't fill vacancies, the work goes on to the employees that are already there.
Right.
So I could see not filling one, but why would you not fill why should that impact the fill? But that's a contract issue. I'm not gonna, was thinking of that, right?
We will have, if we have more vacancies that occur, we will have kind of a gap until we get to January 1st, where we may have those challenges that we'll probably be filling in with hourly folks just to kind of bridge until we get there, because once the hours are reduced, then that will reduce the demand on staff, and we can adjust the schedules.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, through the chair.
Go ahead.
And thank you very much for your update. But I have a question about Fair Oaks Library.
Mm-hmm.
And I see here that the changes, the schedule is going to change. From a Monday to Wednesday. And I mean, it's going to remain the same schedule from Monday to Wednesday, and changes to Thursday to Saturday. But I think, well, it's better to maybe close earlier at 5 o'clock on Monday, because it's the first day when everyone is busy.
Mm-hmm.
But Friday, Thursday, and Friday, I think is the days when we usually go more to the library. And we use more, we spend more time going there. But I don't know if that's possible to make some changes in the proposed schedule.
Again, that's it's something we could consider. It's always a balancing act that when we cut one place, it affects a part of the community. When we cut a different place, it affects a different part of the community. But I'm definitely open to what's going to work well for the community. That's what we want to do. So if there's another conversation that we want to have that gets into looking at a couple of alternative scenarios and saying which of these is what works best, we could certainly do that. I know that part of this, that it's not all on the screen, but part of what we're doing in order to streamline our scheduling throughout the system is that the 5 o'clock closure on Thursday is something that's happening at all 4 of the libraries, so that we don't have to staff any of our libraries on Thursday evening. You'll see that all 4 are having the closure at that time. And then Saturday mornings from 10 to 12, or in the case of Fair Oaks, 10 to 1, all of our branch libraries are closing, and it will be just the downtown library that's open on that Saturday morning time. So a couple of those are efficiencies that we got across the entire system by not having to have anybody work during certain hours. So it might be difficult to change that Thursday evening just because we're trying to not have to have people in any of the 4 libraries on those Thursday evenings for scheduling purposes.
Yeah, one of my wishes is to keep the same schedule as we have, but
of course,
it's
me
not
too.
possible. Yeah, but also something I would like to see in our library is to have more programs for family. I remember in the past we have some art, some activities, and the parents and the children come and for together to be part of the activity, and also basically it's like a family time because they share the same activity. Something you said in June you're going to open the new library, the new place. So are you planning to have more programs for families or art or something for the families and the children?
I think that is something we definitely would like to do. The Fair Oaks Library gets an annual allocation for programming from the Redwood City Friends of the Library, provides the programming for that. And actually, she's here for a different reason tonight, but our librarian, Maria Diaz-Slocum, is here tonight. And we can certainly, between Maria and I and the Friends, their new fiscal year starts in August. And so we can have a conversation when we do the funding request for next year about focusing things more on family programs, if that's the community's desire.
Do you know when in June you're going to open the new place?
I don't know for sure yet because we're still enough under construction that I don't have a guarantee from our contractors yet.
Okay, we are waiting for the invitation also.
I hope it'll be the first half of the month. I'll just say that.
Derek, if I understood correctly, the hours that are marked for closure and the hours to remain open, those are based on the traffic that you get, right? It's based on the statistics that you get?
I would say it's probably 90% based on that, with 10% based on trying to have something that's sort of concise and sensible and easy for people to remember. Because I know if we do 10 to 6 Monday and noon to 8 on Tuesday and 11 to 7 on Wednesday, if we follow the data exactly, people will just be confused and not know when the library's open. So we kind of did some smoothing, but basically, yeah, it's based on the most heavily used hours.
It would make sense, and this just goes back to Rosaura's question. And well, yeah, it would be really nice to have the library open on Saturdays and Sundays. It is better to have it open when actually the crowds go there, which may not be Saturday and Sunday. And so only based on the statistical numbers that you get, it would be more accurate to select those hours. Does anybody else have a question? Oh yeah, we also have some public comment for this item, but before moving on to that, I'm kind of surprised that there seems to be an apparent economic bonanza, particularly for Redwood City, if not for the entire area, Bay Area. And yet we are facing, challenges to libraries and schools. And so it is a little odd to me, particularly at this time. And so I'm wondering if there is anything that we, the North Fair Oaks Community Council, the community, or the county, for that matter, can do, to alleviate this issue, or to put in our grain of sun to smooth things up or make things better. I don't know. Do you have any comment in that regard?
I mean, I think in terms of the general economic condition, I very much agree, and I think it's a matter of the fact that the current city manager and city council have decided to take on an issue that has for previous years been kind of a can that's been kicked down the road. And so that's why we're in the position now of having to make budget reductions in what appears to be a very booming time for the economy. In terms of specific solutions that help us avoid this, I will say that really with the way that we have the positions allocated, This reduction at the Fair Oaks Library is basically a half-time position is what the equivalent is. And the cost of that half-time position with benefits is about $60,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So if there's someone with $60,000 a year that would like to help us sustain the library hours, I'm sure that we could do that.
Okay. We'll make a note of that. And then I'm also wondering if the library system takes on volunteers to cover hours.
We actually have a pretty robust volunteer program already. Where we get into the issues for hours coverage is the personal data that's available to people in the library checkout system, which is a lot of what the staff do while we're there, that for privacy and confidentiality reasons, we don't want volunteers to have access to all that personal data.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, we still have to have a minimum level of staffing there, even if we do add volunteers. And I would say we're pretty close to that minimum level already.
Agree. Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, I'll just throw in this suggestion because I graduated from the School of Library Science in San Jose State, and I know that they always have students, you know, interested in doing service work. And they may get credit or not, but they're always interested in, you know, gaining experience and working in all kinds of places. So
that's an excellent
that's
suggestion.
Something to keep in mind.
Thank you.
And if there are any other questions, then we'll move on to public comment. I think I saw one or two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Martina Sebastian. ¿Era sobre la biblioteca, señora?
Sí.
Ah, ok. Adelante.
Voy a tomarlo. Buenas tardes a todos.
Buenas tardes, Marta.
Bueno, voy a hablar un poquito, ¿verdad?, sobre lo de la biblioteca. Para mí es una preocupación por lo que estoy escuchando, ¿verdad?, como mamá, porque van a hacer recortes de horas y yo creo que es un poco preocupante, ¿verdad? Pues yo como mamá para los niños, especialmente, que necesitan los servicios. Bueno, ahí están viéndome a mí, de que no hablo el inglés, y es muy necesario para nuestros hijos que tengan ayuda de tutoría para que hagan sus tareas. Entonces, yo creo que en vez de que aumenten las ayudas del North Fair Oaks, veo que están, o sea, vamos de mal en peor. Entonces, la verdad, esto me preocupa. Yo como mamá les digo esto. Es preocupante. Gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias, señora. And with that, we'll move to item number 6, North Fair Oaks Permitted Parking Program, presentation by Mr. Joe Lococo, Deputy Director of Public Works for the County of San Mateo.
Good evening, everybody. I am Joe Lococo with Public Works. What I want to talk to you tonight about is a potential residential permit parking program. And just to back up a little bit, what's kind of the driving force here is over the course of the past year, we've received several requests to look at potentially a residential permit parking program to basically offset areas where Within residential neighborhoods themselves, you have other folks who are utilizing the parking on the streets, and it might be generated by a church or an after-hours business. There are a lot of different varieties of what of generators of parking into the neighborhood, but these are neighborhoods where those parking from the outside creates a bit of a challenge for the folks who live in the neighborhood. So we started the process of taking a look at what a residential permit parking program might look like. And tonight I wanted to present with you, or to you, just a rough draft of what we've put together in looking at various agencies and seeing what they've done. Victor, do you have control of the slide? So this is just a basic outline of, thank you, of what we've put together as to what the program we think could look like. And obviously what we're hoping to do tonight in introducing this to you is to get some feedback on whether there are areas here in the outline, whether they're concerning or not. What we'd ultimately like to do is land on a program that we could at least do a trial in a specific area. In the North Fair Oaks area, the one area that has asked us specifically to look at a program is the Selby Park neighborhood. So what you see here is, again, it's kind of a typical program. We looked at a bunch of different jurisdictions, and this kind of is probably about halfway down the middle of what you're seeing in some of the other jurisdictions. So the idea of this program is that we'd have 2 permits per household. And that would be for single-family residences. For multi-unit dwellings, there'd be 1 permit. The assumption there is that for the multi-unit dwellings, there's some off-street parking, and obviously what we're talking about here is just on the street itself. So this would be in addition to what might already be there. Understanding that there's a need for guests. The starting point would be that there are 6 free transferable visitor permits per unit or per house, and that there are opportunities for additional visitor permits at an additional cost. We haven't determined exactly what those costs would be, but they might be $2 to $3 per permit for each additional. So something along those lines. The cost of the program itself would be $75 per permit per year. That's about halfway among the various ranges of costs that we were seeing in looking at multiple agencies. And then an additional application review fee of about $20 per unit. The permit term that we are initially proposing would be 2 years. With a singular expiration date. So the idea would be that once the permit program goes into place, presumably a majority of the folks, because these programs would be driven by the neighborhood. So we wouldn't push for a program unless there really was a consensus among the neighborhood that it was important to them and they met certain criteria. So presumably what you'd have is, with implementation of a program, everybody would have their permits that start and end at the same date, understanding that people move in and out, and the program would essentially link the individual cars to an address, so there'd have to be that nexus. There obviously would be people that might come in potentially 6 months after the program is initiated with the selling of a house. They could apply for the permits. They'd have the same expiration date as the rest of the group. One of the advantages of that is it would be easy to remember if the expiration date was January 1 on even numbered years, and it should be pretty easy to remember exactly when that is. The program would sunset after 10 years. So basically, as long as the neighborhood continued to feel the benefits of the program, it would be good for 10 years. Every 2 years, you'd have to reapply for your permits. So the intent of the program is really to deal with the folks who are coming in from outside of the neighborhood and are parking their cars for multiple hours, in essence taking away from the ability of the residents themselves to park in those areas. Generally what we've seen, and so this is kind of the typical standard, is that is generally occurring during the regular workday hours. And so the idea behind a program such as this is that anybody could park in the area for up to 2 hours, but you're trying to get rid of those long-term parkers that are coming from outside of the neighborhood into the neighborhood and parking their cars there for multiple hours. So 2 hours, anybody could park there without restriction during the Monday through Friday 8 to 6 window. But after, if you're looking to park there for more than 2 hours, then you must have the residence permit. We just wanted to make a note of you can't park your car currently on the street for more than 72 hours without moving it. That would continue to apply. So the fact that you have a residential permit parking, that wouldn't affect essentially that component of the law. As far as eligibility, there are a number of things that we wanted to just briefly talk about. So we want to establish some continuity. And so the part of the continuity is you create some minimal areas that that would be the basis of a minimum size of a residential permit parking area, at least 1,000 feet and at least 1 block in length. So those two things together would be one of those. We do understand that obviously within a neighborhood, construction vehicles often come in. They wouldn't necessarily have permits. There are service vehicles that often come in. So there'd be a program where those types of vehicles could be accepted. There'd be an exception, they wouldn't need the permit. The idea, again, beyond the 2-hour parking is that this is for residents in residential areas only. As we look at the program, we'd go ahead and want to take a quick look and make sure from a technical perspective that the program the area that we're looking at, that a program makes sense there. And there's a few things that we might want to look at, but primarily, I think from a technical perspective, you want to make sure that if you're doing something in an area, you're not necessarily pushing the problem to the next area over. So we want to try to be part of the solution here and not part of just a moving problem. So in order to qualify, what we would do is after receiving a request from the neighborhood is we would go ahead and put a petition out to the community. We'd require at least a 50% response from the community, and at least from among those responding, 2/3 of those people supporting the program. And also to qualify, there needs to be a demonstrated parking issue. And so we would speak with the community. We'd get their sense for when the biggest parking problem is. And we do basically, once we identify when that is, we'd go out there. Typically, this would be a Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. If we're told the worst of the problems are Wednesday afternoons, we go out there on a Wednesday afternoon. We'd basically count all the parking spaces that were taken and the free spots, and we do basically a utilization study. And so in order to qualify, during these times that are identified as the most challenging parking times, the area would have to be at least 80% parked out. So basically what we're saying is if what we're advertising as the worst time, if half the street, there's parking available along half the street, then that street wouldn't necessarily qualify. And then the last thing is we would want to make sure that there's support from among the people who might have an interest in a permit parking program and its potential impacts. So we'd want to make sure that the sheriff's office is in support. If there's a community association or if there's a community council, we'd want to make sure that they're in support as well. So again, this is just an outline. It's kind of, again, a midstream proposal that looks has a lot of components of other agency parking programs. We would like to, over the course of the next months, roll something out in potentially in the Selby Park area, just because we've been talking to those folks. But before we go and really kind of finalize what this program might look like, we want, you know, the reason we're here tonight is to make sure that we're putting it out there, getting feedback from folks, trying to get a sense for the things that are most concerning for them or the things that seem to work well for them. So with that, I'm ready to take some questions, and over the course of the next several weeks, if folks have comments, we welcome those.
Chair Rodriguez, if I may just follow up briefly on that. Mr. Lococo is right. These programs come in a variety of forms. There's 100 different programs out there. There's really not one size fits all, and they could be crafted anyway. As far as some programs don't allow any parking for 2 hours, just residential parking. The key is that there's got to be a demonstrated need. And typically you'll see it around schools where students are parking in the neighborhood and taking up residential spaces. You'll see it around shopping centers or commercial areas or train stations where it's spilling over into the neighborhood and taking up spaces in the neighborhood. And then the other key factor is, and we would certainly look for that in any type of program that we put together here, there'd have to be that demonstrated need. And then the key is buy-in from the community. Any costs associated with this would simply be cost recovery. The county wouldn't be making money off this. It would just be really for the cost of administrating the program. And then enforcement would take place through the CSOs. But again, it could come in any form, any of these type of requirements, 80%, you know, of the neighborhood approval, 70%, whatever it may be. And that's what I think we're looking for, a little bit of feedback here today from the council. Just to kind of give you a first blush at this and get your reaction to it. And again, this was requested by us by several different neighborhoods. And any program we did do, we would strongly recommend that we did it on a beta test type of basis where we tested it in one neighborhood to see how effective it was. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are questions from council members, please go ahead.
What other neighborhood are you talking about besides Selby Park?
So we've received requests right now from Selby Park. We did get a request from the Menlo Oaks neighborhood. We have had some conversation about the Edison by the Sports House, and we had another request on the coast side out in the Princeton area.
Okay. I think when we first started talking about this permit parking, probably, I don't know, 5 years ago, seems like 5 years ago, when we started getting information on the Mental Health Association Waverly Apartments at the corner of Fifth Avenue and Waverly. And the concern was, and I remember one of the things that we were asking for was, would it be possible to red curb Waverly? Because the problem is, one of the problems in that particular neighborhood are the rental companies and the landscape companies parking down Waverly. And so those apartments are have opened up. Matter of fact, they're going to have a grand opening May 23rd, but there's still trucks and landscapers and, you know, people parking down Waverly. How would this type of program fix that problem? And you know the area, Joe.
Yeah. So
that I'm referring to.
Yeah. So on Waverly,
where there's no homes, just street.
Yeah.
Right?
So by Waverly Place, there are going to be parking restrictions that are going to be put up, and that probably would, you'll probably see that in the month of May. So the idea behind the parking limitations was that they were going to be aligned with essentially the opening of Waverly Place. The So Waverly Place agreed to some no parking restrictions along their frontage in conjunction with the development. So the hold off on that is as long as, so we haven't really done it yet because essentially there's a need for construction equipment and other things in association with the build out.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm confused because I spoke to Melissa Platt, Director of Mental Health Association. She said that's out of her department. She doesn't know anything about it. So
correct.
I was asking her what's going to happen with that strip.
Right.
So I'm a little confused.
I can go ahead and send you the limits of the parking limitations, but there will be parking limitations, and that was one of the conditions when the project was approved.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And those are coming shortly.
All right.
Any other questions from members? My initial reaction would be to run these through the community, the specific communities that these may be implemented, and just so that the facts about this program can get out there in the community, the actual residents that are going to be implementing these can think about it, learn about the pluses and the minuses implied in some of these programs, and I'm sure that the communities that need these programs will embrace them, and I think we can. That would be a good start. Maybe having a public presentation and invite the residents on those particular areas, so that we can get good feedback.
Chair Rodriguez, I think it's a good idea. What I might suggest is that we bring this back in a study session format so we can look at some of the details and then really invite those neighborhoods to come forward and interact with the council and try to judge, I think, for the council, the interest level and then some of the parameters surrounding those programs. And we'll schedule that in the upcoming months.
Yeah, my only suggestion about doing the presentation right in those particular areas, it is because usually it's easier for residents to go to a presentation where it's nearby, and in this particular case I'm not sure if it might be more feasible and easier for residents to go, for example, to the Siena Youth Center and have the presentation there. Rather than having it, at a study session. I'm not sure what may work, but either way, I think it would be beneficial.
And through the chair, we're happy to work with you on that, and we could set up a study session at the Siena Youth Center, for example, if that's your desire. If we wanted to put it in the neighborhood, or if we wanted to invite all the neighborhoods that were interested in this, then we could find some central location and really get out and target those neighborhoods and maybe do some door-to-door and let them know that we'll be discussing this tonight here or wherever. But we'll work through the chair to establish that location.
That sounds good. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair?
Yeah?
Yeah, I have
Please.
about the having the meeting or the presentation at the youth center. Why not two? One in the youth center and one in the study session. Maybe it can be also to know. And also I want to know, if this information is available somewhere in the website or how we can get more information to read, like you said, the details of this program.
Yeah, I mean, we could put it up on the website at this point in time. It's all just kind of it's preliminary. So we'd be happy to do that, or generally speaking, I think if the
can we have a copy of?
Yeah, if the conversation is with within a certain neighborhood and the council, I think a possible way of distributing the information is to put a mailer out. And to go ahead. So we can do it a number of different ways. I don't think it has to be a certain way, but we'd be happy to go ahead and make sure that we're kind of distributing what the the outline of this proposal looks like, so that folks have a heads up about this and can think about it a little bit.
Okay.
And through the chair.
Of course.
And what I'd like to ask Mr. Lococo and the staff to work on is a matrix that outlines different programs so that you can kind of look at it across the board and figure out, well, what different cities are doing as far as what the requirement is that they require, what they, what's the amount of neighborhood participation they require to enact the program. So you can kind of compare apples to apples and see the different programs out there and then see what's right for this community.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lococo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's no public comment for this particular issue, and I see there's one. Did you fill out a slip? Go ahead, you can still make the comment.
No, can you come up here?
If you can come up to the mic.
I was just bringing up that it was mentioned about the study sessions, and it was touched on after I thought I'd come up, but about having mailers sent out to the communities to really make sure that that happens, because I only found out about it through a community email that I didn't know that this was going on.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
We'll do that.
Well taken, thank you. Okay. And if there's no further public comment on this issue, we'll move on to item number 7 on the agenda, and that'll be the update on the proposed Fair Oaks Community School closure. Presentation by Maria Diaz-Locum. She's the president of the Redwood City School District Board of Trustees.
Good evening, Chairman Rodriguez, council members, Mr. Callaghy, county staff, community members, my boss, Derek Slocum, and of course, Supervisor Slocum. Derek Wolfgram and Supervisor Slocum. Thank you very much for inviting us here this evening. Dr. Baker's with me this evening. He's our superintendent, and the two of us have been going around to all the different schools, giving updates to the schools' communities on the different goals for the school district, their academic achievement, and some potential budget cuts. When we got to Fair Oaks School, the numbers look pretty low. As you're all aware, a lot of the families have moved out of our area. The cost of housing is extremely expensive in this area. We've also lost some students to the charters. So with the amount of students that we had, the steps that we had to take was to start looking about restructuring the site. So with that, Dr. Baker will now continue our presentation.
Good evening, all. So what I would like to do is, I know there are 10 minutes, and I will keep it to 10 minutes, so I'm going to give you an overview of where we've been and the journey that we've taken with the Fair Oaks Community School population. So we started this process every school year. What we do as myself and the board, we look at the enrollment and how it's going to affect our communities on an annual basis. And we start looking at that at the end of February, because at the end of February, what occurs is that we have a good understanding of what our enrollment is going to be, because our registration has stopped has actually had an ending date. We start in end of October through the end of February to determine if there are new students that are going to come into the school district, registering for kindergarten or any other grades. Plus, if you're aware, we have schools of choice within the Redwood City School District. So students do, at that point in time, also their parents may decide they want to go to a different school site. So after we receive the data, then we determine what our staffing is going to be at each school site, depending on the enrollment. And when we looked at staffing at Fair Oaks School, at the end of February, we saw that we had 186 students that were enrolled for the following school year, but we had 40 students that actually wanted to leave the school and go to another school within the Redwood City School District under the schools of choice. So we brought this attention to the community members at Fair Oaks School towards the end of March and brought to their attention that we would like to restructure the school. And by restructuring, yes, that does mean possible closure, but we wanted to make sure that we were going to take care of our families and give them an opportunity to select another 3 schools to go to within the same area and provide them transportation. After several meetings with the community, and as you can imagine, any community, when they're thinking that their school is going to be restructured in some fashion or be closed, it's turmoil, correct? So it's the last thing that any superintendent wants to do, but you have to keep a balanced budget, as we're constantly told by our County Office of Education, and to see how we can continue to manage that and still keep a 3% reserve for emergencies. So with that being said, we had several meetings with the community, and then we had a major board meeting 3 weeks ago on April 4th. At that board meeting, I'm sure you probably heard on the television station, Telemundo or Univision, what was going on at that board meeting and how parents were very disturbed with what we were intending to do. So the next step that they wanted to do was to meet with board members and myself on a face-to-face basis to see if we could come up with some other options for them. So it was an agreement with our board president, Maria Diaz-Slocum, that we would do that. And so what we did we started last week on Friday and then again on Monday, and we met with several parents and a community member. They came up with their concerns, as you read through the information, the concerns they had, and then also asked for a time period to see if they could get their enrollment at least up to a minimum of 200. 200 still does not break us even when you're talking about costs and so forth for the school, but at least what it would do, it would create a feeling of the community having a say on how they could help us get to the numbers that we were hoping to strive for. So at last night's board meeting, what you have in front of you is a presentation that I made to the board to see if we can come up with those 200 students and hopefully more, by May 15th, because the parents came forth and said that with the enrollment that I saw at 186, that 186 is actually 190 students that want to stay at Fair Oaks right now and not move on. So we said, if there are 190, I'd originally at the April 4th board meeting said we needed 250. But the board did come to an agreement saying we will go with 200, hoping to continue to raise that number if we have the exact 200 kids by May 15th. That'll give me a sense of my staffing that I need to do, give me a sense of how many people need to be working in the office, the custodial, and so forth. It'll also allow me to not have to really say we're going to restructure the school and let's start the moving process. Because as Maria alluded to, we do have 3 charters in the Redwood City School District, which have taken some of our students. The charters are Connect, which is on the Fair Oaks site. We also have KIPP, which is on 2 school sites. KIPP is located at Hoover, and it's also located at the Taft site. And then we have Rocket Ship, which is at the Kennedy Middle School. With that being said, parents are really mobilizing at this point in time after last night's board meeting when the board agreed to go with the conditions that you see on one of the pages that is in front of you. And the conditions range from those 200 minimum students to definitely be enrolled, and definitely there's a parent commitment that they are going to stay at Fair Oaks School, and when we start on August 20th, there will be 200 kids at that school site. So with that being said, we put into process starting today, there's always a district staff member at the school site there to make sure of the enrollment, the registration process, and the parents signing that they are committed to staying that year at Fair Oak School. At 6 o'clock this evening, we had 114 that were committed for the next school year. We need to get to that 200, and parents know that. And we will be there every day until we get the 200, and hopefully by the May 15th, we will have them. With that being said, you will see that there are other conditions that the school must abide by. It's always difficult to talk about money when you're educating children because it's something that one should expect that should happen no matter what. But we are a revenue district, so that means that you saw on the chart, there's $9,926 that we receive for each student that comes into the Redwood City School District and is with us 100% of the time. They're there for 180 days. Every day they're there. If you're not there for that, one of those days, a portion of that money is taken away. So at Fair Oak School, there was only an 86% attendance rate at the end of February. So that is something that we've discussed with the parents, and the parents agree that we need to raise that at least to where we want to be district-wide at 96%. So with these conditions that are listed on this page, the parents agreed and also agreed to move forth and to really mobilize and to continue to work hand in hand with us to help us keep Fair Oak School open and not closed. So with that being said, I am very hopeful, the board is very hopeful that we are going to be able to increase the enrollment at Fair Oak School. I think that I did that within the 10 minutes, or under the 10 minutes. Questions?
Thank you. If council members have questions, please go ahead.
The Chair, I have some questions. How many students do you have right now, for sure?
How many?
That's on the list for 2018-2019 school year.
For right on the list as of today.
As enrollment,
As of this moment, the ones that were for sure that are going to come in as of today is 114.
114.
114.
And you need minimum 200.
Now remember, there were 186 that I have enrolled as at the end of February. Out of those 186, 40 want to go to other schools in the Redwood City. You know, we have schools of choice. Adelante, Spanish Immersion, the Mandarin Immersion Program, Orion Open Alternative, Clifford, Roosevelt, John Gill. So 40 families want to go to those, so some other school in the district. So I want to make sure that with that, there's that 146. Out of that 146 right now, there's 114. We need to get the 146 plus additional students to make the 200. The parents said, and we trust and we believe, they're out there recruiting the parents, and they have a number that gets them to 190. With students that are there right now and students that want to come to Fair Oaks but have not registered yet.
If you keep the school open for less students, it can be less staff, or it have to be the same number of people working there if it is less than 200 students? It have to be the
less
same
than
one?
200, less than 200. Of course, it would be less staff, but the board has agreed that the condition was that there would be at least 200 to keep the school open.
Yeah, I have a question. It's a bit of a contradiction because on one hand, you're losing money with the lower enrollment, and you want to increase enrollment and thereby increase your revenue. Yet, you continue to authorize the charter schools. And my question is, or maybe it's just a comment, how is that diverting from your money? You know, I mean, to me, it's a contradiction. You know, you can't have both. Or can you? Maybe you think you can. I don't know.
We have no choice with the charter schools. As you know, Mrs. Lopez, the charter law does not favor public schools.
Excuse me?
The charter laws do not favor public schools. What I mean by that is the charter schools had a petition that came before the board 5 years ago. And during that time, they had X amount of numbers. They had Innovate Public Schools working with them to move into Redwood City. Redwood City School District at that time, with the previous superintendent, approved Rocket Ship and KIPP. What happens if a board does not approve the charter schools? It can go to the County Office of Education. The County Office of Education in San Mateo County is very pro-charter, and they will approve it. If the County Office of Education would not approve it, the Board of Education for the state of California is pro-charter and will approve it. And then, you know what we are stuck with? Providing them space under Prop 39. So from October 1 of each school year until May 1, I must provide them space with their enrollment that's projected for the following school year.
And what does the school district get from that?
Very little. Okay. Very, very little. When you give them the classroom space, they rent the space from you, not at fair market value. For renting the properties at Hoover and at Taft School, for the classrooms that they're using, it's $7,000 a month, which is nothing.
No. No, I realize actually contradiction was not the correct word. It's a dilemma.
It is
because I understand the millions of dollars being pumped into charter schools in California. I understand that. But if you stand for public education, yes, they're publicly funded, but they're privately managed. And if you stand for public education, then what can we do to build that up? And I guess with the particular situation at Fair Oaks, it's to increase the enrollment at this time. So my next question is, how can we help you do that?
What we've done is the parents have created a marketing project with our Director of Communications, and they were working on it this morning. Okay. And so they are going to be doing the same tactics that the charter schools did to us 5 years ago. They are, as I told the parents, even though the schools belong to the Redwood City School District, you cannot go onto the property location where the charters are, even though they're Redwood City schools, right, because of the laws that are embedded. They can give out pamphlets, give out information, give out flyers, but they have to stand on the sidewalks, go into the parking lots, go into the grocery stores, go to the churches, and give out information about what's happening in Redwood City. And this is why we want you to come back, talk about our programs and how well we're doing. And we actually, in visiting the charter schools, which one of our board members went, 2 of our board members went last week. You know, it's amazing what they tell us, that they're only using the amount of money that they're receiving from public education, which is not true, right, because the school has one principal. I'm talking KIPP right now, because that's what one principal. They have 3 assistant principals, and then they have these coaches that go into the classroom and help the teachers. You can't do that on $9,926 that you're getting for each of those children, plus you're getting some of the federal dollars of Title I, but that has to be spent in a different fashion because there are regulations with it. So there is that extra money that you're talking about, mm-hmm, that we don't have, right, but we offer the art, we offer the music, we offer dance and so forth. Theirs is very strictly regimented, and we offer summer school, which they don't offer. So I see it as an imbalance. Yeah. and we're being blamed that we're not doing a great job. So I'm getting them out there to market just as they did previously.
So, the communication piece, how can council members, if they so choose, help?
So
It's not everybody's, you know, that.
it's not every.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own opinion, but.
Right.
Right.
So I have a director of communications, Jorge Quintana, and also he has an assistant. No, she's not an assistant. She's my parent liaison for the Latino community, Michelle Riemann. And contacting either one of those individuals will definitely give you assistance on how you can go out and promote what we are trying to do within the school district.
Thank you, John.
And we have two parents right here.
I wonder if other surrounding communities, other cities, or other school districts are encountering the same issue in terms of charters.
The district right south of us, Ravenswood, is very much in a dilemma at this point in time because of the charters that they have in their school district. In San Francisco, not as much. I think they have 3 for the whole city, so it's not as impacted as we are here in Redwood City. 3 is a lot for us. I mean, Connect was homegrown. By homegrown, it was parents that had their children in Redwood City that created that charter. The other 2 that came in are major organizations.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Rosario.
Yes, Mr. Baker. As you know, I'm an employee of Redwood City School District, and as a community member, I want to say you thank you because you're giving the opportunity to the parents to keep the school open, and just I want to say thank you from the parents and from the employees too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one other question. The 3 charters in the district right now, are the teachers credentialed? Do they belong to a union?
They do not belong to a union.
Okay.
They do not belong to a union.
That's an option I understand that they have, correct?
I don't believe it's an option. The charter chooses not to have the unions.
All right. Thank you.
It seems to me that that this is a larger conversation that we would like to continue, not only with yourselves, but also with ourselves, with council members in the community of North Fair Oaks. And given that we have essentially bought, one more year, if things happen, the way they have been agreed right now with Fair Oaks Elementary, it would be great if we can have a study session and, sort of iron out some of the other issues and questions that we have. Because it is not only an issue of education in this particular case. It is an issue, of course, of quality of education offered in many of these schools, which end up reflecting in attendance and also in special communities. Like North Fair Oaks, where some of these communities are very vulnerable. The students have major needs that are not. I would not consider those needs to be normal. Like comparing a kid from North Fair Oaks versus a kid in Palo Alto or in Menlo Park. You would have a discrepancy in not only in resources, economic, and various others, but also it comes up the issue of housing affordability, because many of the families that used to live here, and bring their kids to many of these schools, they're moving out of this area, and that is an issue that education alone, regardless of whether it's a charter or a public school, is not going to solve. But it's an interrelated issue that also needs to be brought up. So I would invite you to join us in one of the study sessions and see if we can continue this discussion. And I appreciate your time in coming here.
Sure. Thank you for inviting us again, and I'm glad you brought up the issue of high-quality education, because Dr. Baker talked about the numbers. But for the rest of the board, it's not just about the number of students, it's the quality of education. And if you look at the data, it shows that Fair Oaks School is the lowest in the district. And that's one of the things that we need to change. But we cannot change it if the students don't come to class, if the parents don't hold up their end of the bargain to help us, which is why we put in some of those conditions as well. We totally understand, and I grew up in this community, so Linda, you've known me for many years. So I know what they've gone through. I went through some of those same issues myself, but I don't think that should stop us from providing the highest level of education that we can provide for them so that can be successful, not only in school, but in life as well. And we would be happy to join you in a study session. Dr. Baker and I will get back to you and see what we can schedule. Thanks again for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There was a public comment from Luis Sanchez on this particular issue. If Luis Sanchez is still here, please. No? Luis Gotches, I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it said Sanchez.
Buenas noches. Pienso que esta es la oportunidad más importante para darles a conocer el sentimiento de nosotros los padres de la escuela Fair Oaks. Yo tengo mis hijos en la escuela Fair Oaks. El 22 de marzo nosotros recibimos una noticia muy devastadora. Los quedamos muy tristes. Aunque sin embargo hemos podido trabajar con la mesa directiva y nos han escuchado y nos han dado oportunidades para poder sacar adelante nuestra escuela. Yo pienso que en esta oportunidad, debido a que hay diferentes personas de diferentes departamentos de nuestra comunidad, sería pedirles a todos y cada uno de ustedes que nos apoyen como comunidad, porque necesitamos tener nuestras escuelas comunitarias abiertas. Yo soy una de las personas que pienso que la educación pública es la más buena que hay y es la que debemos promover, porque ese es el futuro de nuestra comunidad. No estoy en desacuerdo con las escuelas charter. Lo que sí estoy en desacuerdo es que por qué tenemos que darles nuestros planteles educativos prácticamente de gratis, porque no están llenando los espacios o las cantidades que necesita nuestro distrito para mantenerse operando. Si nosotros tenemos 200 estudiantes en nuestra escuela Fair Oaks, es operable nuestra escuela. Si nosotros permitimos que la escuela se cierre y se la rentan a una escuela charter,
se está acabando su tiempo, ya se acabó.
Okay.
Si puede
Muchísimas
concluir.
gracias.
Muchas gracias. Y claro, nosotros estamos en apoyo de la comunidad, lo seguiremos apoyando. Gracias por venir.
I'd say it's within the discretion of the board to adjust the agenda as you see necessary.
We should go ahead and do it. Go for it.
Because we have a lot of public comment.
Okay.
Okay. So it's already 9 o'clock. We still have a few items on the agenda. I apologize for how long it took for everything. And I would like to go on with the item number 8 from the agenda. And this is the proposed flavor tobacco ordinance. I'm going to ask everyone interested in this item to please be brief. And we're going to start with public comment. If you can strictly stick to 2 minutes, we'll let you know when your time is up. And we can start with Tami Pereira.
Good evening, City Council members. The businesses in North Fair Oaks are run by people who are neighbors, friends, and local entrepreneurs. I am not in favor of retailers losing their economic needs, and it will be felt by the community. Tax dollars collected from their businesses and directed towards our benefit will disappear, hurting North Fair Oaks' economy as a whole. It comes down to adult choice. Instead of limiting adult choices, we should continue to enforce age restrictions, hold retailers who violate the law accountable, and use the tax revenue to educate youth on why they should never smoke. I feel that we will be bringing back prohibition and going back in time if this passes. I'd like to also mention that about 5 or 6 supporters who are in agreement will also be sending their testimony via email. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, Veronica Escamez. And after Veronica, we'll have Esther Orozco. If you can please stand up and get closer to the podium.
Good evening, everybody. Like all of us here, I'm against children getting access to harmful products. But in my opinion, the ban is not the answer. Instead, the supervisors and health departments should look and to be willing to work with the local nonprofits who are responsible for keeping tobacco out of the hands of the youth and make sure that they can make healthy and smart decisions, because if they don't sell it over here, they will sell it somewhere else. So I think education is better for our kids to know how to choose and be free of tobacco. Thank you.
Thank you. We can have Esther Orozco, if she's still here. Otherwise, we'll go with Liliana Acosta, please. And after Liliana, we can have Florence Ortiz get next to the podium.
Good evening. I'm here to provide my opinion on the ban of the flavor and menthol tobacco. Menthol and flavored tobacco products are highly sought by people who do not want to smoke tobacco directly. By initiating this ban, people will not stop seeking flavored tobacco, and underground economies will emerge. This will become a problem for the North Fair Oaks because it will create new outlaws and greater insecurities. I don't want to see our community become more susceptible to crime. That is why I oppose this ban. Thank you.
Thank you. If we can have Florence Ortiz, please. And next, Liz and Patrick Pounders. If you can stand up and get close to the podium.
Good afternoon. Well, can you hear me now?
Good afternoon. I came tonight to express my opposition towards the proposed ban because in neighborhoods all around the county, we're experiencing real issues like gentrification and homelessness. Our local businesses are supporting families who live around this area and make it so that they can survive here now. So I'm just expressing concern of why we're targeting them when we've learned in high school in our history classes that the consequences of prohibition during the 1920s and during the war on drugs didn't really, it made things worse. The lesson in each of these eras suggests that prohibition did not work. That's why I think that we should consider other methods to get youth to stop or to not even have access to these products.
Thank you. Liz and Patrick Pounders.
Supervisor Slocum, Chairman Rodriguez, and honorable members of the Community Council, thank you for providing us an opportunity to speak and express our opposition to the San Mateo County's proposed tobacco ordinance. My name is Liz Pounders. My husband and I are proprietors of the Exxon gas station and convenience store located in unincorporated San Mateo County at 844 Fifth Avenue. Just 2 nights ago, we were in this very building, along with many other local business owners and managers, to express our opposition of the tobacco ban. We are here because, in a nutshell, the proposed ban is unfair and misguided. It is unfair to retailers who must abide by a ban when retailers literally across the street can freely sell the same products. The loss of tobacco sales will have a real economic impact on our store and the community. The ban is a wrong approach. It does not do anything to address reducing teen smoking. Retailers comply with the law. California Department of Health statistics over the past 5 years show that compliance in San Mateo County is around 95%. My husband and I and many other retailers take selling to minors seriously. We do not support underage smoking. We do not want to be fined. We support severely punishing the bad actors, but not to penalize those who are law-abiding. Retailers are employers. We should support families and we support charitable causes in our communities. We are the community. We are here again tonight to make sure that our voices, our arguments, our efforts on Tuesday night were not in vain. Our voices deserve to be preserved for the record. As such, I hope you will allow us to resubmit these retail letters and this petition for our record. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My husband and I sincerely hope that you oppose this proposed ban.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass them around. Thanks very much. If we can have the presentation about the proposed flavored tobacco ordinance, in this case by Edith Cabosley, Program Services Manager for the San Mateo County Health System.
Good morning, Chairperson Rodriguez and members of the Council. My name is Edith Cabosley. I am with the San Mateo County Health System, and tonight I'm going to present to you information about a draft proposal for the Board of Supervisors to consider related to flavored tobacco products. So these are some examples of the products that we are talking about, whether they are flavored cigars or e-cigarettes or smokeless tobacco or hookah. Our major concern about flavored tobacco would be the use of tobacco by young people who use flavored tobacco as one of the major ways they start to initiate using tobacco products. Some of the data related to youth use of tobacco show us that flavored cigarettes are starter products for young people. And because of that, Congress in 2009 banned flavored tobacco except for menthol. Some of the top reasons why teens try using e-cigarettes are more than half of them are curious. 44% say that the flavors are appealing to them, and about a third are influenced by their peers. When we conducted a survey of retailers in San Mateo County, we found that 76% of tobacco retailers in the county are located within 1,000 feet of schools and sell tobacco, flavored tobacco products. In the United States, 18% of high school students report using one flavored tobacco product in the last 30 days. The majority of teens that report using tobacco began using tobacco with flavored products. 40% of students in 8th, 10th, and 12th grades who use vaporizers use them because they taste good, and only 10% say that they use them to attempt to quit smoking combustible cigarettes. 87% of adolescents who use cigarillos in the past 30 days use a flavored version of cigarillos. Here are some additional data. 70% of middle and high school students who currently use tobacco have used a flavored product. 63% of current e-cigarette users have used flavored e-cigarettes. 61% of current hookah users have used flavored hookah. And 64% of current cigar users have used flavored cigar products. Some of the arguments that we might have heard about why e-cigarettes are promoted in the community are that they are a cessation device for people. And actually, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are showing that more people who are in the U.S. who are addicted to nicotine than any other drug. And the research is showing that nicotine may be as addictive as heroin, cocaine, or alcohol. And the proven effective ways for CDC that are recommended for cessation are a combination of counseling and medication, medication alone, or physician intervention. There is no scientific evidence that e-cigarettes help smokers successfully quit or even reduce consumption of traditional cigarettes. Studies have suggested that e-cigarettes inhibit people from successfully quitting the product, and dual use of cigarettes and e-cigarettes do not reduce cardiovascular health risk for people who use the products. 89% of e-cigarette users are still using the product 1 year later. So the flavored tobacco ordinance is relatively brief. In the process of thinking about the ordinance, the Tobacco Education Coalition of San Mateo County conducted a survey of close to 1,000 residents in the summer and fall of 2016 and asked people if they would support or oppose a law that would ban the sale of youth-friendly tobacco products such as candy flavor or fruit-flavored tobacco products like cigars or cigarillos, and 3/4 of those who responded in San Mateo County said they would support such a law. They were also asked if they would support or oppose a law to ban the sale of flavored tobacco products like menthol cigarettes, and more than half of those who responded said they would support such a law. The provisions of the ordinance would be, and it is in draft form at present, the ordinance would only apply to unincorporated areas of San Mateo County, so those stores who are located not in unincorporated areas would not be affected. The ordinance would prohibit the sale or offer for sale by any person or tobacco retailer any flavored tobacco product. This ordinance would be enforced by the county health system within unincorporated San Mateo County. It would go into effect 30 days after the ordinance's final approval, and enforcement will begin 6 months later. So that 6-month period would be the period where we would ask retailers to implement a plan to get rid of their inventory of flavored tobacco products. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much. If council members have questions, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Yesenia.
Is there a reason why it's only applied to unincorporated areas of San Mateo County and not all of San Mateo County?
Yes, the Board of Supervisors only has jurisdiction over unincorporated areas of San Mateo County. The incorporated cities have their own city councils who would need to consider a policy such as this.
Is there a precedent from other nearby cities about implementing such thing?
Yes, the city and county of San Francisco has one, the county of Santa Clara, as well as at least one other city in Santa Clara. So there are several of these cities across the state of California that have this.
And this ban would be strictly on flavored tobacco, correct, not the other unflavored types. That's correct?
Correct. There's a definition for what would fit into this category of what a flavored tobacco product is. So just general tobacco products would not be part of this. It would be the flavored tobacco products.
And do you know if, I'm assuming that currently the sale is legal Is that correct? The sale of flavored tobacco products
Yes.
is legal. And so do you know if advertisement of these products is open to display on any of these stores that sell these products?
So when we conducted the retail survey, we did also take a look at where tobacco products were advertised. So tobacco products are advertised because there was a master settlement agreement that that happened after the tobacco industry was sued by states and jurisdictions, San Mateo County being one of them. There are limitations where the tobacco industry is able to advertise. So there are places they can't advertise, billboards, for example, or like youth-oriented media outlets, but they are still able to advertise, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council members?
Edith, I see that you had a meeting on April 24th.
Yes.
There were some questions from the attendees. Can you answer any of those, or have you? Okay, if there's an ordinance, they have to basically get rid of, the vendors have to get rid of their product. So one of the questions is compensation. Would that be part of the ordinance that the vendor would be compensated for loss of product? I'm just going by this.
I understand. There's no language currently in the ordinance that would have that. The purpose of the meeting on Tuesday, which was a meeting that was held as a listening session for retailers, was to get input from them and get feedback from them about the ordinance that we would then bring back to the writers of the ordinance for their consideration. So I cannot answer that question at present.
Sure.
The purpose of the listening session was to listen, take notes, and bring back that information to the people who make decisions around those.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what is the process for this measure to go through or not. At least I don't see that this is a voting issue for us, North Fair Oaks Council. So what would be the next steps?
Correct. Thank you for bringing that up. We wanted to make sure that this council was updated on an important policy that the Board of Supervisors may have on its agenda in an upcoming meeting. The process would be for us to get input from both the retailers this Tuesday as well as you today, bring them back to the authors of the ordinance for their consideration. We expect that if the authors are going to move forward with the ordinance, that it would be agendized on a future Board of Supervisors meeting. That meeting will be publicly noticed so that the language of the ordinance will be available for the public to review, and any member of the public would be welcome and encouraged to come to that meeting to present the board with their perspectives and opinions.
Thank you very much. I guess I can speak on behalf of all council members when I say that we would like to continue being informed about this particular issue and the dates when when this issue goes further up.
Thank you.
I though specifically would want to know of the suggestions that were made. Are those going to be incorporated into the language? Because there's some suggestions that seem pretty valid, but that's a question, right?
So those questions will be brought back to the folks who are going to make decisions around what changes will be made, if any, to the ordinance. I can't speak to any one of the suggestions or any one of the questions because that is not my purview, but they will be brought back. The comments and the recommendations from the group will be brought back to the authors of the ordinance.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I wonder if we can have brief supervisor's report since I see Mr. Slocum here. It would be a great disservice to not have him speak to us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I have some updates, but I want to focus on this flavored tobacco proposed ban. With due respect, Mr. Chair, I think it is within your purview as an advisory body to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors to consider this issue and take it up and debate it and talk about it. I would even suggest through Mr. Callaghy that he arrange a study session for your body and that, you know, appropriate outreach be done. I mean, there aren't that many businesses in the unincorporated area here in North Fair Oaks that are affected, so it's not a burdensome task that I would ask the county to do to reach out to these owners, but to have them join you in a study session in the very near future. I know you had 2 or 3 study sessions that you wanted to get to, but you know, I think it's important that the council consider what's written on these notes that we took. We might have made a couple of errors here, but I think for the most part we captured the thinking and the questions and the comments of the group. But I would just encourage you, Mr. Chair, to consider doing a study session and inviting the community members as well as the business community to come and have a chance really to discuss this issue with you. And as Ms. Lopez said, to answer as best perhaps as could be done some of these questions. I know that there's a lot of different opinions on this, and certainly all of us here are supportive of the notion of improving child health in San Mateo County, and smoking is clearly not a good thing. But the current law, you know, you can't sell to folks under 21 right now. And some of the comments that came up at the session the other night were, well, why don't we take some of the $8 million in tobacco tax revenue and put it into education and do a better job of educating young people about the evils of smoking. So just a consideration for you, but my request is, Mr. Chair, if you would consider doing a formal study session in the very near future to take up this topic of the flavored tobacco ban. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And you know, that's the reason why I was, you know, wondering why this was not a voting item on the agenda, because it was just shown as a presentation. But yeah, it would be interesting for us and for the community at large to revisit this issue and look further into the details. Thank you.
And through the chair, if it's okay, we'll arrange that study session first, and we may have to have a couple study sessions in 1 month instead of waiting the usual every other month.
Sounds good. Thank you. If we can have a brief county manager's report.
You know, given the hour, I'm going to forego a report, if that's okay with you, and I will pick it up next month.
Perfectly fine. Appreciate it. If we can have brief council members' reports.
Okay, so the neighborhood associations in Redwood City have extended invitations to unincorporated to join them at their upcoming meetings, and basically neighbors getting together with each other and talking about common ground, common issues. So their next meeting is next meeting will be June 13th, 7 o'clock, and it's a neighborhood association leadership meeting at the Veterans Memorial Senior Center. They will have a rep there from Nextdoor to talk about their improved platform for neighbors to communicate with each other. That's one. Rents Too High, which is the youth-sponsored housing coalition at Siena Youth Center, is holding a housing panel at Siena Youth Center on May 15th. I told you, I mentioned Waverly Apartments, a grand opening on the corner of 5th and Waverly at May 23rd. That will take place. There's a lot going on. The Transportation Coalition that We received a presentation here, I think, what, 2 months ago? They're having forums throughout San Mateo County. The one for South County will be on May 9th, 6:30 at the Redwood City Library. And for those of you interested in public art, our next regular meeting will be on May 7th, 6 o'clock at Fair Oaks Clinic. And one last thing, I attended the neighborhood NRT meetings, and their next meeting will be May 24th, and they're always downtown at the county building. So issues around code enforcement are discussed, problem areas in North Fair Oaks, and what the county departments are doing to eradicate and work on some of the issues. And so that we actually, I attended the meeting April 24th, neighborhood response team, and the next one is May 24th. It's always in the afternoon, so I know it's hard for people to get away, but it's really good to sit and hear what how the different departments in the county are working together to resolve issues. So that's it.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.